Today's top stories. The Comelec reports the successful conduct of the Bangsamoro Organic Law plebiscite in Mindanao. The Philippines and Japan signed a loan deal for the construction of a metro-grade train system. Baguio City records its coldest temperature yet at 10.4 degrees Celsius. And the Philippines prepares for the hosting of the 10th ASEAN Para Games in 2020.
Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Authorities report the successful conduct of the Bangsamoro Organic Law plebiscite. This, as the Comelec noted, a high turnout of voters and positive reception of the BOL. More on this from Rom Dulfo.
The National Plebiscite Board of Canvassers meet today following the plebiscite of the Bangsamoro Organic Law or BOL in the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao. Canvassing of votes will take place at the Comelec headquarters in Intramuros, with results expected to be out later this week. Comelec spokesman James Jimenez says the plebiscite was successful even as 24 precincts in Cotabato City did not open on time. He says some teachers did not report to their assigned areas after reportedly receiving threatening messages. About 2.2 million voters are expected to have participated in the plebiscite. PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde echoed the assessment of ARMM Police that the plebiscite would be peaceful because of the high number of people in favor of the BOL. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana says the successful conduct of the plebiscite shows that democratic rights are alive and well in the Philippines. He urged everyone to respect the results and unite to make it a success. The plebiscite for the ratification of the BOL seeks to create the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
SWS survey reveals BOL's high approval ratings from Muslims. The survey shows that 79% of Muslim respondents are in favor of the approval of the BOL. Malacanang welcomed the result, saying it proved that Muslims seek change and peace in Mindanao. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo says the Bangsamoro have had enough of war, terrorism, and poverty. He says the palace is confident that the ratification of the BOL will lead to peace and progress for the Bangsamoro. Malacanang welcomed the Senate's approval on final reading of the proposed 2019 national budget. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo says lawmakers are treating the national budget as an urgent matter set to be finalized in upcoming bicameral conference committee deliberations. Panelo says once the General Appropriations Bill is approved, the government can implement its new projects to increase the country's economic performance. Senators unanimously voted to approve the proposed national budget. The budget will be discussed by the Bicameral Conference Committee before it is signed by President Rodrigo Duterte. Malacanang says it has no involvement in the resignation of House Majority Leader Rolando Andaya Jr. Anday left his post following the passage of the 2019 national budget. He was replaced by Capiz Representative Fredenil Castro. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo says the palace respects the House's independence in light of the leadership change. He also advised Andaya to stop defaming a member of the cabinet through the media and formally file a case instead. Andaya earlier accused Budget Secretary Benjamin Diokno of inserting 75 billion pesos worth of flood control projects onto the 2019 national budget. Panelo expressed hope that there would be better ties between the executive branch and the Congress with Castro as new House Majority Leader. The Department of Foreign Affairs maintains that all passport data are safe, and the PNP seizes over 1,000 loose firearms from security agencies. More on these and other news around the metro from Benj Bondok.
The Department of Foreign Affairs assures the National Privacy Commission that all passport data are safe in its custody. DFA spokesperson El Mercato says the department is extremely serious in protecting the personal information of the public. The DFA hopes it was able to address the concerns of the Commission on whether a breach occurred. Meanwhile, over 1,000 firearms were confiscated from private security agencies that were ordered to close down in 2018. PNP Chief Oscar Albayalde says more firearms are expected from other security agencies that closed down. The seizure is part of the PNP's continuing campaign against loose firearms and security concerns for this year's elections. In other news, the Department of Foreign Affairs issued a new advisory to remaining Filipinos in Syria in the wake of airstrikes and a terror bombing in Damascus. Filipinos living in the vicinity are urged to stay indoors and avoid unnecessary movements. Several locations in the Syrian capital were subjected to missile strikes. On Sunday, Damascus was rocked by a huge explosion on a highway near the southern suburbs. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondo.
Still to come, the Philippines and Japan sign a loan deal for the construction of a metro-grade train system. Baguio City records its coldest temperature yet at 10.4 degrees Celsius. More on this when the PNA Newsroom continues. The Philippines will have its first metro-grade train system with the capacity to carry about 1 million passengers a day by 2022. More on this from Miguel Hill.
Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III and Japan International Cooperation Agency Director General Shigenori Ogawa signed the loan agreement, which is the first tranche of Japan's financing support for the North-South Commuter Railway Extension Project. With a total project cost of about 628.42 billion pesos, it is the biggest combined project under government's Build program. The 147-kilometer project of the Philippine National Railways is composed of three components spanning Manila to Malolos, Bulacan, Malolos to Clark, Pampanga, and Manila to Calamba, Laguna. Initial operations of the rail system is targeted to be in 2022 and will serve about 350,000 passengers per day. The project will also make use of the country's first metro-grade train system. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Miguel Hill.
The Senate adopted House Bill 7436 abolishing the Road Board. House Bill 7436 contains the amendments earlier agreed upon during a meeting between leaders of the House and the Senate. The House approved on third and final reading the bill yesterday. Under the new bill, collections from the motor vehicle users charge worth about 45 billion pesos will be transferred to the general fund and covered by the General Appropriations Act or GAA. The amount would be used for the repair and rehabilitation of roads, bridges, and drainage systems, and could also be used to help calamity victims. With both chambers approving the bill, the measure will be prepared for transmittal to Malacanang for signing by President Rodrigo Duterte. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
Oil companies implemented a new round of price hikes this morning. Gasoline prices went up by 10 centavos per liter, diesel by 40 centavos, and kerosene by 15 centavos. This is the third oil price hike implemented this month following the increase on global prices and the imposition of the fuel excise tax. Previously, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries announced a decrease in oil production to prevent oversupply. The DENR issued a reminder against using the dump sites in the boundary of Laguna and Batangas. Report says general garbage trucks from Cavite, Laguna, and Batangas were still disposing of trash and sold wastes at the dump site in Barangay Kay Anlog in Calamba City and the nearby dump site in Barangay Laurel in Tanawan City. Erring dump site operators may face charges and be held liable for the damage on the environment. The DENR has been receiving complaints about the stinking odor in the garbage site from the residents and local villagers. Local government units and their service providers are urged to reduce the volume of garbage and promote recycling and composting. Cordillera official seeks funds for the rehabilitation of the region which was damaged by Typhoon Ompong and Rosita. Meanwhile, Baguio City's temperature drops further to a record low. More on this and other stories from the provinces from Janice Cabe.
The Cordillera Administrative Region is asking for an 18 billion peso fund that will be used to rehabilitate and restore the region after being battered by typhoons Ompong and Rosita in 2018. The fund will be used to rebuild the damaged infrastructure, houses, and livelihood affected by both typhoons. Cordillera recorded 21 billion pesos in damages and losses due to the two typhoons that hit the region. In Baguio City, temperatures dropped this morning at 10.4 degrees Celsius. Pagasa says this is brought by the northeast monsoon or amihan prevailing over northern Luzon. This is also the lowest drop this year after temperatures dipped to 12 degrees on January 13. In Davao City, Major General Filimon Santos assumed the post of commander of the Eastern Mindanao Command. The newly installed commander vows to end insurgency but only with the support of all government agencies and stakeholders. He also vowed to address poverty, sustain the gains of the command, and further improve community engagement. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Up next, the PCOO joins foreign media in observing the Bangsamoro Organic Law plebiscite. The Philippines counts down to the hosting of the 10th ASEAN Para Games in 2020. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
The Philippines is being called Asia's rising tiger. But what exactly does this mean? Posting a GDP growth of 6.7% in 2017, the country has one of the fastest growing economies in the world, expanding at a rate unseen in the last 5 decades. The good news is, it's just getting started. The better news is that we have designed a brand new city to be the nucleus of this economic renaissance. Less than 1 hour from the capital, Manila, straddled by hills and blessed with tropical climate all year long. We are building the city of the future, a landmark development twice the size of Manhattan. Originally developed by the Americans for its secure and strategic location in Asia Pacific, Clark is being transformed into a disaster-resilient metropolis that will be competitive and attractive to a global market. It will consist of 4 main districts. The Clark Freeport Zone, an existing mixed-use complex established in the 90s. Clark Global City, which will serve as the primary business district. And New Clark City, which will house satellite government offices and a first-class sports village. Central to all of this is Clark International Airport, which will soon be expanded to accommodate up to 80 million passengers a year. This ensures that travel will be comfortable while trade is seamless. A city unmatched in connectivity, with access to world-class highways and the service of high-speed railways, connecting north to south and east to west, across surrounding seas and over oceans. Clark is a city built as living proof that business in this part of the world is not only easy, but simply better. With no red tape, lower taxes, and endless investment opportunities. This is a city prepared to attract talent so that the country's best and brightest will come here to work and choose to call this place home. Because this is a city that knows how to play, where you can unwind at your own speed, where safety is paramount, and people always come first. This is a city where history and culture thrive, where modern conveniences meet timeless traditions, and progress is driven by passion. This is a city with limitless ambition that may someday find itself among the great cities of the world, built for business so that time is always well spent, and built for people so that life is always well lived. This is Clark.
Operatives of the Criminal Investigation and Detection Group, or CIDG, arrested Daraga Mayor Carlwin Baldo in his residence in Barangay Tagas, Daraga, Albay for illegal possession of firearms. Among those confiscated from the embattled mayor include loose firearms, bullet, and grenades. Also recovered was a white Isuzu Altera. Baldo is being tagged as mastermind in the killing of a co-Bicol Party List representative Rodel Batocabe last month.
The Presidential Communications Operations Office has been assisting foreign media in their coverage on the plebiscite for the ratification of the Bangsamoro Organic Law. PCOO Secretary Martin Andanar says the Office for Global Media Affairs was in charge of transporting reporters from Manila to Cotabato City using the C-130 planes from the Department of National Defense. Global Media Affairs have been in Cotabato from start to finish to support international observers. Andanar expressed optimism that the BOL would be ratified to bring long-lasting peace in Mindanao. The BOL is considered as one of the administration's biggest legislative achievements. In our foreign news, Syria intercepted heavy Israeli missile strikes in Damascus. Reports say the Israeli attacks were carried out from inside the Lebanese airspace and the Israeli-controlled territories in Galilee. In a statement early Monday, the Israeli military says it has started striking Iranian targets inside Syria and warned Syrian forces not to harm Israeli territories or forces. It is the second Israeli strike targeting areas around the capital within 24 hours. On Sunday morning, the Israelis fired missiles at Syrian positions. Official media says the attack was foiled by air defenses. In sports, the Philippines has begun the one-year countdown to the hosting of the 10th ASEAN Para Games. The ASEAN Para Sports Federation and Philippine Paralympic Committee officially kicked off the ASEAN Para Games at the Novotel Manila in Quezon City. Before this, the sports officials made an ocular inspection of the official event venues in Clark, Subic, and Manila. The ASEAN Para Games 2020 begins on January 18, 2020, a few weeks after the completion of the 2019 Southeast Asian Games. About 2,000 differently abled athletes are expected to come over from different countries in Southeast Asia.
Importante sa ating bansa in nation building is inclusiveness. No? Kumbaga, even people with disabilities can participate and compete in international level of sports. And by doing this successfully, we will be able to prove to our countrymen and to our friends from Southeast Asia na talagang we are one.
Task Force Bangon Marawi continues to provide temporary shelter to families displaced by conflict. The Bunganga shelter is the latest to open, where over 200 families have moved in as they await aid from the government. Sweet Lukman has the story.
206 displaced families after the Marawi siege are now transferred to the transitory shelters built by the Task Force Bangon Marawi at Barangay Boganga in this city. The families officially received the keys to their transitory shelters in a simple awarding ceremony held on January 17. Out of 1,500 transitory shelters to be constructed, 550 units are now ready for occupancy. According to TFBM Chairman Secretary Eduardo Del Rosario of the Housing and Urban Development Coordinating Council, by March 31 this year, all displaced families in evacuation centers will be transferred to their transitory shelters. Del Rosario also shared that the National Housing Authority will also build a basketball court with stage, livelihood training center, madrasa and praying room, health center, and playground. For its part, the city government of Marawi will also provide for potable water for the displaced families in the meantime. A pumping station will then be built as a permanent water source in the area. The Marawi City Health Office distributed toiletries while the Department of Health gave jerrycans as drinking water containers. Meanwhile, the Department of Social Welfare and Development provided 2 family packs. Del Rosario also said that the families would receive livelihood program from the World Food Program of the United Nations. They will be provided with seedlings and farm implements for food production through Cash for Work at 2,000 each family per month for 3 months from the WFP. Together with Lou Antonio for PNA Newsroom, Sweet Lukman, Philippine Information Agency.
Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Here's another look at today's top stories.
The Comelec reports the successful conduct of the Bangsamoro Organic Law plebiscite in Mindanao. The Philippines and Japan signed a loan deal for the construction of a metro-grade train system. Baguio City records its coldest temperature yet at 10.4 degrees Celsius. And the Philippines prepares for the hosting of the 10th ASEAN Para Games in 2020.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day.